teams. Can only be one victor here in this one, though. So, as of course, you can't play the same champion on both sides, not blind picks, so therefore only one victor possible.
Imagine if it was.
Oh, in like a 5th game?
Yeah.
Do you think they'd ever do that for competitive League of Legends? 5th game?
I wouldn't mind.
I reckon it'd be pretty cool.
Could lead to some great moments.
I think it could. There could be multiple Shens. As Aurelia going to be the first ban here on the side of EDG. T1 taking away the Graves from Flandre. I think that Flandre is just not allowed to play that champion anymore. Just looked a little bit too good on it.
He's so good at playing weak side on the Graves when he has to, and Graves is just so strong right now. Like, I think this champion is really going to be moving up the list for not only Flandre, but for a lot of players going forward into quarters and things like that. But see, once again, that Draven removed from Gumayusi, for those who don't know, was the first champion he ever played competitively in the World's Gauntlet last year. He's made a splash on it recently here as well. So definitely one you want to take off of the board.
Actually kind of cool that even if they sub Teddy and he's another Draven player. So just banning away Draven makes sense into T1 just in general. As Lee Sin, of course, a bit of a favorite when it comes to first picks. And Jiejie, a fantastic Lee Sin player in his own right. We'll have that one focused away from him as well. Final ban to come through from EDG will be the Lucian. So now as far as first picks are concerned, I feel like the mid lane is wide open, gentlemen.
Yeah, this is feeling like a TF Ryze handshake that I think we're going to see. Both teams going to opt. I presume the first pick TF. I think that the champion is incredible at the moment, and the Jarvan ban is an interesting one. This continues the trend of
Yuumi though.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that was left open.
And this is another I think that T1 left the Yuumi open last time around as well, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to remember, because it wasn't exactly the greatest times for T1 in their first game when it came to, you know, the draft and things like that. They had the Ziggs and the Jayce for that extra poke, but EDG kind of just rolled over the top.
It will be the first
answer
time.
Is this time.
It will be the first time Meiko plays it here in this group stage.
Okay, never mind.
But it has been left open by T1 before, just not against EDG. And they'll get the Twisted Fate with this Yuumi pick coming through. Faker has played that so much already here at Worlds twice already. This will be the 3rd time. We talked about it being the targeted ban in that game against 100 Thieves just moments ago. And this time he's going to get it, but you imagine, as was mentioned by Chronicler earlier, this will be matched by the Ryze because you need to have the ability to match that rotation. Alternatively, Sylas could be a pick you go with here if you wanted to have a little bit more of an aggressive mid lane presence, but the scaling that you're going to get with the Ryze is so much stronger.
I'd really like something like a Talon or a Kiana or something like that to be picked up as well. We've seen these assassins paired up with the kitty cat on a book just be so incredibly powerful. And could be an option now for JJ if he wants to lock that one in, and the Talon is going to be his weapon of choice.
And it's an incredible combo that we've seen T1 utilize with great efficiency as well, if I remember correctly. And for me, the big thing is no team have been able to actually punish this Yuumi. We've seen engage supports being picked into it. I think a Lulu makes sense. Try to match scaling with scaling. Obviously, Lulu, I don't think scales as well, but works very well together with the Aphelios. Because doesn't matter which lane we've seen picked into it, the all-in, it just can't be found, right? The summoner's advantage is too much, and then you get a freely scaling Yuumi, even have the ability to go AP, especially if you look at how AD heavy EDG already is. A lot of flexibility in terms of build paths available there as well.
I really like this Lulu pick over the Leona even, because Leona is going to really struggle against this much mobility plus the poke gap, even with the Jayce, to get good solar flare value or Zenith Blades into a team fight. It's just so much harder to pull it off rather than trying to beat this by engage, beat it by speed, match that speed, match those rotations. That's what Lulu is going to be so great at here. Plus the survivability against those Talon dives.
No, exactly right. We'll see whether the Sylas is going to get looked at here as far as a ban. Kiana taken away from Oner. Not going to allow that assassin v assassin matchup. Still, technically, you know, the Zed has been played at Worlds so far. Hasn't necessarily been super successful from the jungle, but certainly still assassins available, as that Sylas ban that we were talking about is going to be removed. And now EDG to remove an option as well. Could be something like a Wukong to be taken away from Canna here, just to deny that decent matchup into the Jayce.
Yeah, I think that's a safe one.
I actually wouldn't mind a Malphite ban, even though it's not necessarily within T1 style. I do think that Champion is good, and to add to that, with a Enchanter support, T1 is going to lack engage. Thus far, currently their only way of trying to find engages is a Twisted Fate gold card, and that is, or you know, maybe a big ultimate from Guma, but that's not the most reliable. J4 already taken off, and that has been kind of the go-to for engage support, or engage junglers rather. Also, mind you, that the Ryze has not been banned. and that is still available here to pick up for EDG.
They're going to go with the Poppy instead here, which gives you a little bit of both. You have some engage with this, but you can shut down some of the mobility that this Talon has, and you can, of course, look to take a member out of these fights. But I think the Ryze is definitely the one that's screaming at us right now in terms of Scout's potential counter pick here.
Yep. Poppy does have the biggest no button to a Yuumi, though, and so that feels absolutely fantastic. No popping in and out if you do have that steadfast presence available. So, of course, Oner could be playing it, Canna could be playing it. We'll see where the Poppy will be going, but already Oner has played that in the jungle. No surprises as the Ryze is hovered, and it will be the Misfortune as well as the Yuumi. A version of the Bullet Hell bottom lane. This time it has the Bullet Time as well as the last chapter.
Very nasty stuff here to run into, and see what this last pick ends up being to counter this Jayce. We have seen the Vladimir target banned a few times actually in response here in Worlds. The Wukong is the very common one. It's one that Canna has played so many times in the LCK. It's the one that you definitely expect to see from the LCK teams. It'll be the Kennen that's locked in instead, and this gives you a lot more engage. Rather than winning the 1v1 matchup, you're looking for better team fights later on with the already strong follow-up damage you have.
And if we look at T1's comp, there's a little bit of everything. You have some side laning threat with the TF can enable that. You have good vision control. You can kite back if they try to engage onto you. But then I look at the EDG comp, and I think in terms of survivability, in terms of if you get Flandre ahead, it becomes really hard for T1 because their engage isn't the greatest. If you get Yuumi ahead, I'd say Viper, but honestly, I'd be more afraid of Meiko with how strong the Yuumi has been thus far. It makes it so much harder for you to play out. I think that while the team comp of EDG can fall behind, even though I don't necessarily expect it to, and still have a couple of avenues back into the game with those wombos, for T1, it again feels like a finicky team comp, one that you really need to execute cleanly. They were able to do it against 100 Thieves, but EDG, not the same team.
Yeah, and we'll have to see whether T1 actually have a plan for dealing with this Yuumi. It feels like it might have been the Poppy, you know, that could have been their decision and might have worked in scrims, things like this, but we have to see it on the world stage before we believe it, because the Yuumi has just been way too strong every time we've seen it.
Yeah, it's insane how powerful she is, and with the setups you have here for the side of EDG, you have lanes that you can win every single one of them if you play it well, and you do have, of course, your own global to match the Twisted Fate rotations in. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways where EDG just get ahead early, and I think that's where T1 is really going to struggle because their comp is fragile in terms of its engage as well. The Twisted Fate, the Kennen, when the Kennen tries to teleport in for a slice of mist and you run into that Talon, you're going to be blown up, you're going to be dead before you get that flank off.
Well, here we are onto the Rift for game number 3 of the day. If EDG win this, they will be first in the group. No way that T1 can catch up.
30 seconds until
T1 win, then they will be able to even things out. We could be seeing a tiebreak for that first or second seed. So a lot on the line here. Still have to see how it is all going to eventuate. I like the fact that T1 do have some sort of front line in this Poppy that Oner does have. Their team fighting power is going to be there. But I'm just looking at Talon Yuumi, wondering whether T1 have enough to stop it from just being disgusting, like we've seen already.
Yeah, and that is a big ask, and not something I know if T1 can necessarily make happen. I do think that the Kennen specifically, if he can get ahead, which we've seen T1 already play in the last game as well, relatively strongly towards Canna. And one of my biggest criticisms of Canna throughout summer was that even when given resources, he wasn't really able to utilize them as well as some other top laners. That has not been a problem anymore. When given resources, he's been able to snowball very, very well with Keria and Guma waiting in the brush, but Viper and Meiko are very aware that this is happening.
One step ahead, not going to walk into that one. Could have been one way to just end this Yuumi right at the very beginning.
It's not happening, Wolf. I
And
think
they
we
knew
all
exactly
collectively
what was
want
going
it. We want it. But I don't think it'll
Not
happen.
going to happen. Look, I think I'm one of the most pro Yuumi casters that we have at this event. I'm excited to watch Yuumi in the meta. You know, it's my first year of casting League of Legends, so I haven't dealt with the previous Yuumi metas that the rest of you guys have lived through, but, you know, I'm always excited to see it.
I thought you were going to say, like, I'm the most pro Yuumi, and I still don't like it. That's what I was expecting you to say. I was a little bit disappointed. But no, I think you know, she can have her place, but she's just looked so extraordinarily dominant that it does make it a little bit difficult. We'll see whether T1's answer is going to be enough here, as it looks like they are going to be able to get the level 2 first, and so that's definitely good news.
Able to get a decent amount of pressure, and we've already seen that both these teams play around their priority very well. EDG obviously in a more kind of chokehold fashion, where there was no possibility for their opponents to ever get back, as we see some trading here in mid. But T1 did something similar against 100 Thieves, where they were able to find continuous leads across the map and secure that early vision and get some objectives.
Yeah, a little bit of a pause here. Not entirely sure what it's about just yet. We'll update you as soon as we find out. As we saw a little bit of trading there in the mid lane. Scout versus Faker, of course, the former protege many years ago. It was back in like 2015, 2016 that Scout was with SKT at the time. And then pretty swiftly moved to EDG. I believe played behind Pawn for a little while before he was then, moved to a mainstay position. Took a while for Scout to really become the steadfast mid laner.
Yeah.
But really has solidified himself.
It's really interesting to see the evolution of how T1 subs have come to be over the years, because obviously long ago, back when we had those blind picks, two Shens, there was a lot of sister teams in Korea, right? So you could have two full teams that could compete together in champions, right? So you could have two rosters that are scrimming against each other, developing together. And as that rule was changed, and now you have to have one team, T1 has still kind of always been ahead of the curve in terms of having a second lineup of trainees, always having substitutes for even their top players like Faker, who've grown and improved. And Scout is one of those great players who was under Faker's wing, finds himself having a really strong career, and now, might be vying for a world championship title.
Yeah, certainly looking good enough to do so right now. T1 have a slight gold lead as we come out of the pause. There's Jiejie here towards the bottom side, potentially able to get up to some shenanigans.
And there is the possibility of trying and looking for something. It is somewhat low, and we also see Oner in the general vicinity, mirroring last game, both junglers starting on top side, clearing towards the bot, and then trying to look for something there. Gumayusi and Keria not afraid to keep continuously shoving, knowing that they do have that cover. And with Oner going for his own gromp, don't expect that he will want to go for the top side scuttle. Faker just going to back.
Yep, both him and Jiejie are going to back at exactly the same moment. As Faker's going to cancel his. Not going to be cancelled on the side of Jiejie, as you can see Faker just wants another wave. Trying to move through and grab it, as Canna going to soak a shock blast here from Flandre, who once again is on the Jayce so far. 2 different champions that he's played here at Worlds. But 2 very strong ones. So why would you fix it if it ain't broke?
No, you just don't need to if they're going to give you the opportunity. It's also such a great pick blind. There's not that many counters, and even though the Wukong was considered, they wanted to have a little bit more team fighting prowess with this Kennen. But I mean, with both of these players loving the Jayce so much, why not pick it up early? And it gives you a little bit of early game lane control, as you can see here.
And this is something we saw EDG do last time as well. Every time where there is an opportunity, secure a little bit of vision. Try to keep track of Oner as well as you possibly can. As the desk already highlighted, Oner has been very involved in terms of the plays that T1 have made. And keeping track of him and making sure that both him and Faker remain known at all times is also going to reduce the pressure on your side lanes. Because we haven't really talked about this TF, but obviously post-6, Faker is going to be looking to make plays on the side lanes. At that point, it's going to be a lot harder for Flandre to try and push in. And Oner, also aware of what EDG have been doing to the vision game, puts down his own control board and is able to take that down.
Yeah, we've seen a few Kennens in Korea try to attempt the area into Jayce. I think that's really fallen out of favor quite a bit. It's the electrocute coming through this time here for Canna, and he is just going to have to go home, teleport back to lane here using that last minion. Of course, a monolith Flandre away. Something else to point out as well, Viper once again picking up a cull early. Going to be able to grab a lot of extra gold that way. Even with the, normally you're like, okay, I got a Yuumi lane. This is going to be easy pickings. I'm going to even have maybe some pressure in the lane. Against Aphelios, Lulu, not so much. So just play it slow, grab that cull instead. You're going to get that extra guaranteed gold. So once again, really love how slow and carefully EDG approached the game.
It feels like EDG, they must have got massages last night. They're feeling super zen moving in today because they've been so patient. Even in their previous match, it was slow and steady, but it never felt like there was a chance for their opposition. It's happening once again. We've got a whole bunch of defensive options as far as summoner spells for the bottom lane as well, as Oner is going to be discovered here as Meiko gets into position. on the Talon. This is exactly where Yuumi is designed to be in this composition. And it's starting a little bit earlier this time around as the Drake has spawned. First one will be an Infernal. I might get my wish of a Cloud Soul finally today.
One day. And even though this wave is shoved in, there's not enough of a window. T1 don't really want to risk it, try and force off an early objective. So instead, they are going to just continue the pressure. And this is one thing that we have seen Gumayusi and Keria do consistently on especially this Aphelios Lulu lane, is make use of the pushing power that this combo of champions has to continuously try and apply pressure to those plates. As Jiejie now continuously, again, securing vision. Him and Scout have been very diligent about that throughout the entirety of these games. And it's something that you're going to have to keep doing, although Flandre did have the wave in a very comfortable spot here.
Yeah, Canna has pressure though, so Oner's going to be able to come through and steal his shellfish away. Hate that. Go to the fish market, you've just handed over the money, and then somebody else just comes and swipes the bag.
Yordle with a hammer.
Yeah, and it's a Yordle with a hammer. Not playing Lollipoppy though, so not as scary as it could possibly be. Still very frustrating. So Jiejie losing out on that one, but not the end of the world at all.
Critical timing there for Scout to grab the blue as he's low on mana. That means he can stay in lane here against Faker, totally fine. It's actually a really nice timing there for Jiejie to help him pick that one up. Part of the reason why you see that aggressive rotation over there from T1, because they know that that's where he's going to be focusing. Faker is going to, again, be able to clear some vision here and get that ward next to the Raptors. So careful, so cautious, both of these mid laners right now, making sure that the variance level stays at its lowest possible point. So we'll have another pause here.
I think that might have been Flandre. I saw him
last time, yeah, I think it was
look up
too.
out of his chair just a little bit. So maybe struggling somewhat. But yeah, it's been, once again, pretty slow, pretty steady. But both of these teams looking like they're okay with the situation, right? Both of them are like, ah, yes, I will handshake because I have the scaling composition. But which team actually does, Chronicler? Tell me.
You got to go with Yuumi, right?
Yeah, I'm scared of it. As the Elsa King, I'm scared of it.
Yeah, I see Aphelios Lulu, and that's what I want to go for. But I think similarly to what we saw in the 100 Thieves game, there it never came to fruition, right? 100 Thieves had to press R comp, didn't press the R button, unfortunately, so we never really saw the power that comp had. But the range that the Azrael and Orion provided in that game, we have in this game as well. I think that Flandre in particular has been an extremely stable top laner on the Jayce. He's got the comfort pick, and Jayce hasn't been for the longest time, you know, that I need to win lane, I need to bully early. He skills very well. We saw how much damage in the last game Canna was able to do once he finished his Surreal Dust, even against the Mel fight. And I think that something similar might happen in this game. Another big thing for me is that if you go in aggressively as T1 and you try and make a play, you try to set up a dive, and it is not executed 100% cleanly, Yuumi is going to mitigate anything that you do. Whereas for T1, like, you have Lulu shields, but you can't really deal with the poke that they throw at you. And then again, the engage from T1 isn't the greatest. So I wonder if they don't force through side lanes, which I think with how EDG has been playing is really, really hard, how you're going to continuously find openings to actually make plays and try and deal with the absolute nightmare that is Yuumi.
I mean, Yuumi aside, one of my biggest concerns is that you're going to have to deal with Jiejie's Talon at certain points. And one of the ways that you can engage as T1, some of your best tools are going to be that rapid-fire cannon gold card, right, from range, or the flanking cannon, whether it's via teleport or you're trying to, you know, skirt your way around the other side of a Baron pit or the other side of a Drake pit. And if you get spotted by EDG at any moment, because Talon can go over walls, he can collapse on the cannon so quickly, maybe even force him to use his ultimate in a 1v1 on the side of a team fight. Then you've lost all your engage. Talon finds his way back into the other side of the fight. He's got that Yuumi to speed him up. And I think that if T1 go into the late game fairly even, it does feel like maybe that's the path we're walking right now, that I think Edward Gaming has just so many more ways to play around objectives later on that makes me very worried.
Yeah, not to mention that, you know, Viper will slowly cash in the cull, have a good time, become this misfortune that has an R button that can tear T1 apart at a moment's notice as well. They have the poke coming through from Flandre. I feel like there are a lot of win conditions on EDG's side, but there is side laning from T1. They have shown that they are very good at it. Faker is on Twisted Fate. Faker has definitely developed into one of the best utility mid laners that we have, and Twisted Fate certainly fits under that umbrella. And so looking forward to seeing whether T1 can actually play some of these side lane mind games. The difficulty is they're playing against EDG, and they're super good at late game macro, mid game macro, early game macro, and late game macro, and outside of game macro.
So they're just good.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Atlas.
They have good macros on their keyboards.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just trying to...
You were trying to be thorough, and I respect that, like EDG have been all day. And then again, you talk about the TF, but there's also a Ryze in this game, right? And Ryze has a similar impact around the map. The Realm Orbs can even take a whole team, and the Realm Orbs was something that T1 throughout their run with the LCK have used so much and relied upon very heavily for fighting early aggression and trying to find really big mid-game tempo swings. And T1 don't get matched here and might have an opportunity to go for Flandre here.
Yeah, it's a big flash to come through. Keria just looks him down, and Flandre is terrified of the Glitterlance, so they will be able to move on forward. T1 got themselves the Rift Herald and were uncontested.
And look at this crescendo in the top lane. This is where you send your Aphelios. We've seen this so many times in the LCK. You make a rotation like this with a bot duo, and if you get a kill, amazing. If you don't, you're still going to get so much power on this Aphelios.
What's the one thing that T1 always do?
This.
They go for early Herald with everyone, and this time the rotation isn't read by EDG. Yes, they cross-map. They're able to pick up a couple of plates on Viper. They're able to clean up the side of the jungle, or the bot side of the jungle. But I don't think
These plays aren't equal.
No.
These plays are not equal. I mean, you're going to get all these plates very slowly here as EDG, but you're going to give over that extra inner turret gold here potentially. They have to commit so many resources to defend it, but 2 charges here and all the plates to top side.
Yeah, in trade for 3 plates on the bottom side. Oh, 2 so far, but 3 is going to come down as Viper tidies this last one up. So he is going to be able to get a lot more gold by himself. But for the team, T1 certainly coming way out ahead on this one. Scout moving down, looking to clear out some vision. So EDG were actually very good at denying T1 their Herald play that they love to go for in their last matchup. So of course it was no surprise to them that this was the play that T1 made. I have a feeling that because EDG were getting shoved in so effectively by T1 on the bottom side of the map, they weren't able to have that tempo and the priority to get themselves around the map as early as T1 were. So it felt like they just didn't have the resources to make the play.
Maybe a little bit caught off guard. Viper has caught up in terms of waves now, obviously, with the gold that came through the first turret blood going on to Guma. In terms of gold, I expect he will still be substantially ahead. But in terms of TS, at least, in terms of experience, Viper now a little bit more caught up than he was previously. And now a 1k gold lead for T1 early, I think, is something that they're going to be happy about, but also not something that really breaks open the game. And also Canna now, possible for him to get punished in that longer lane if Scout goes for either a TP or a Realm War play, or Jiejie uses his mobility, with or without Meiko, to try and collapse on an overextending Canna.
I mean, they have a very slight teleport advantage right now, as Canna's teleport is not yet online, and you know, he's going to be able to sit freely there in the top side of the map. Canna's, because his teleport's almost coming up, they have so much vision control around this rig. T1 feel like they can play this tug-of-war game here, and there's just no real answer, unfortunately, on the side of EDG. You're not going to get anything out of this. You're not even going to be able to push those bottom plates anymore, and trading up once again here in the macro game for T1.
Well, Flandre is now in trouble. The immediate flash in from Canna, and they just explode the Jayce. Flandre with no flash, no way out.
Yeah, you used it earlier, now you don't got it.
And I talked about overextending for Canna. As it turns out, it's not Canna that's overextending, it's Flandre, very close to his own turret.
Overextending next to his inner turret.
I know, but there is a TF in the game, and that's why this pick has been so pivotal this Worlds. That's why he's been first picked basically every single time. And Keria might get caught here, but will actually walk away. They're not sure if they were aware that he was there, but and this, I guess, is T1's answer to the question. How do we deal with Yuumi? Don't deal with it. Make cross-map plays, get the TF, and try the hard force. Whether that's going to be enough remains to be seen, because we've seen teams be in a disadvantaged position, but fight their way back using the power of that Yuumi.
Yeah, and you know, this is a situation where I don't know exactly where Scout's wave was there, but a little bit hesitant to match that with a Realm Warp or a Teleport, just not having the read on it means that, you know, EDG kind of just getting caught with their pants down a little bit here, because you know the play is potentially there, and Flandre, that's why it's an overextension. Yes, he's next to his inner turret, but if your teammates are not ready to react so quickly, like, if your teammates are not ready to react, you can't be there, you know? And you've got to be communicating that a lot better.
Yeah, I think one of the very interesting things about this game is now we get to see EDG behind tempo try and fight back for it. And that is something that we haven't seen, it feels like, at all, this entire group stage from EDG. So whether they can, still up for debate.
Yeah, there was the little moment against DFM of all teams, but that never felt as, I think, as threatening.
I still felt the inevitability of the EDG at that point in time is, okay, final chapter comes down, they're looking to try and catch Keria, who has the wild growth, and will use it to keep himself alive. Now heroic charge from Oner, he's going to take himself down this Rift Scuttler, and EDG trade some ultimates for a wild growth.
No objective to fight over here either for EDG, so even if you do end up getting that pick, you're not going to get much out of it. Keria is very happy to trade 1 ult for 2.
Yeah, still nerves as well. Keria had his flash. Like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I can just
It
walk
took him
out
a
of
long
there.
time to press his R button as well. He was really
Just trying to do as well as he could. Now the call is finished for Viper, so we will be able to cash in on that. And the first item spikes do come in across the board. And want to reiterate that this is a good, substantial lead for T1. But until we see the Ocean Drake and a possible Cloud Drake go towards them, I'd still keep in mind that the EDG composition, when matched with an overextension, over-aggression or misposition in a team fight, can very quickly shut it down. But I am impressed because, as you pointed out, Atlas, I do feel like we haven't seen EDG really get threatened in the early game. Most of the time, again, not counting the FM game, and that, I think, came as a very positive surprise to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, T1 have been very good, especially recently, at playing through early game advantages that they picked up. That was sort of their bread and butter. That's what a lot of people have been talking about in relation to T1, as Oner now lying in wait, going to get raked, but not going to get dashed on because, of course, he's Poppy. Steadfast presence, pretty good ability. Therefore, no engage possible.
Yeah, very nice attempt here for T1 to actually kind of bait a fight. Ow. Wild Growth's about to come back up. They're actually committing.
Yeah, big Destiny to come forward. And by big, I mean Faker's just going to head into that Pix Brush.
You're going to lose a lot bottom with this, actually, as T1.
Trading a turret maybe for Shirley as Gumayusi just trying to bully his way back towards this mid lane. Clears out the minion wave. But this is all T1 against the clock as they want to be able to take Shirley.
Scout has teleport, so he can join this fight if EDG want to commit.
Getting the turret as well, so they're trading up.
He just wants more. He's just trying to slow us down, but T1 are going to get it.
Yep, Canna also trying to rotate around, but he's not quite in position. But T1 do manage to lock down the Rift Herald. Now Faker moving on in. There's the final chapter. Maybe a flash needs to be used, but no, it's going to be the stopwatch first. As that bullet time just to zone T1 away from their turret. Now the teleport's going to come through. Moonlight Vigil comes down from Gumayusi already. So much damage available to flash forward. The dash cannon as well from Canna, but now they're trying to turn it around. The Yuumi, unfortunately, oh no, Meiko tries to save his jungler, but instead throws his life away, and T1 wipe the team fight.
Such a beautiful fight from T1. You have Canna on the flank on the left side there. He gets into a position to push, and then as soon as Edward Gaming push a little bit too far, he can teleport in. You've got that lockdown there. And Edward Gaming, they have a comp that can blow up single targets. They have a lot of burst damage. They have a lot of mobility. But if you actually get the jump on them first when they overextend, T1's composition has so much power. Now we're looking at a 4,000 gold lead.
Also mind that one of the biggest tools that you have available as EDG is that bullet time. And that was thrown fully into a Faker that just pressed his stopwatch. Still with the heal, still with the flash available. And with those down, no opportunity for EDG to come back into it.
Yeah, and here's the new Axe Effect replay. This was the zoning ultimate to come through from Viper to give them space in that mid lane, force T1 out. But Gumayusi landing this Moonlight Vigil is just so important, and the Steadfast presence is such high value.
Oh yeah, it's that flash engage from Oner, right? We talk about the lack of engage from T1. Well, as it turns out, EDG walks a little bit too far forward. Oner will not hesitate to flash. Canna on the cannon, we've seen him do it many a time, go forward very aggressively. And because of how quick and bursty that fight is, you also don't get to use one of the greatest powers of the Yuumi, which is the consistent healing that it provides and the longevity in slower, more drawn-out fights.
And that's why this is a big overextension from EDG. The other thing, though, is that with Kanna's positioning there, where he could have flanked around the Herald, he then goes to the top wave and is actually going to start threatening an inhibitor turret. If EDG don't commit to that play and they just walk away, Canna keeps his teleport, he keeps that pressure on. It's kind of a checkmate scenario there for T1. They're like, well, if you don't make a choice, if you don't go in, you're going to lose out a little bit. And they do commit, and they're so ready there with the Poppy Flash. to punish. And now they're going to grab a second Drake here. The advantages just are really starting to stack up right now. And with the pushing power that T1 has with this composition too, they're going to start getting that deep vision. For the first time ever, it feels like EDG is not only a little bit behind, but actually really on the back foot.
Yep. Now 4 members of T1 on the bottom side of the map. Flandre is going to be counter-pushing on the top side. So they are going to go turret for turret as far as those outers, but it might be inner turret falling down as well here for T1. As Oner's going to move on round the side. EDG, the rest of them getting into position as, oh dear, that is a very dead Lulu once again. As that is now Moonlight Vigil to come forward, and I think that was the ulti from Viper immediately cancelled as well.
Yeah, Oner says no. I actually will not eat a bullet time.
Yeah.
I would rather not. But still, really nice punish from EDG. And you haven't finished the sentence, EDG on the back foot. They immediately show why you cannot overstep against this team. T1, get a little bit greedy, get the chakrams up and think, okay, maybe we can push. That's a lot of gold that's standing there. And EDG recognizes it and goes in hand.
Yeah, and in this Axe replay, you can just see, I mean, the lockdown is there. The root, the Everfrost there, the last chapter. There's no way out when you do just step that 1 foot too far over the line without flash.
I really wanted to see that cancel again because it was very fun. It didn't actually have an impact at all because it was just the 1 kill. But it did be funny.
It did. Still, good disengage there from Oner as well, as Destiny's going to come forward. Faker looking for his opportunity. Everfrost onto Viper, but not too much more, as there's the empowered shock blast. Faker still looking for it, as that's a very fast red card, as now the flash forward from Canna. They get the stun onto Flandre, and he is just dead. As soon as Oner gets there and presses W, there is no way out.
Put some respect.
T1 keep pushing forward.
Put some respect in Canna's name. This guy is making big plays this game. Flash forward there once again. It's not over yet.
Yeah, the ulti to come through. His great stun card comes out from Faker. Jiejie in a little bit of trouble. Now the ulti is on cooldown. Scout flanking through the side, but T1 are not relenting. They're looking to take down this inhibitor turret. And there's the stun. The walk up and stun from Oner, is now Scout's in trouble. Oner still pressing forward. Canna getting some damage down onto Viper, who has to get out of there with his Gale Force. And T1, they've just walked in, taken the turret, and now they'll walk back with a long road towards this Baron.
And that was an overextension from EDG. Your key ultimates were down there. You didn't have your final chapter, you didn't have your bullet time, and without those available, T1 can actually play it that avert, right? Like Canna, everyone sees him coming from a mile away. Faker tries to set up the play very aggressively. Canna's like, no, I got Protobell and E, and I also have my flash, and we're gonna make this happen. And because you're not walking into a bullet time, you're not walking into Yuumi ult, you actually get away with it.
You have so much CC as T1 on single targets like this that, yes, the Yuumi healing is great and it can sustain you, but if you get caught like that and you're just chain stunned, there's no great turn without bullet time. As you mentioned, there's no great turn without last chapter. So aggressive plays like that on the Kennen are really going to come up big for Canna every time he's able to pull it off. So needs to be a lot more respect shown here for EDG. On the other hand, if EDG just sit back and wait, then T1 just controls vision around Baron. They can start Barons very quickly. They have a composition that can rush it down pretty fast. And you have to respect it. Speaking of which, I mean, this is a moment where you don't have a lot of information as EDG, and now T1 gets set up a fight in this choke point with a new slicing maelstrom that's set up. I mean, how do you respond here as EDG? You don't have a lot of information. You don't have a lot of choices. Look at this. Blind.
Oof. I was a little bit scared for Viper there, but he is going to be all right. It's T1 in position. Faker finds the gold card. Everfrost, the chain CC is just too good. And with the Destiny, he can't go invisible. It's just impossible for the Talon to get himself out. And now Destiny from Faker immediately back towards this Baron. No jungler on EDG. It's about as textbook as it gets.
And again, the ultimates are down. They were both used in that fight, but there is still the poke available. T1 might get their health bars taken low here, but they're looking for a possible turn.
Yep, Faker already on the flank.
Looking for Flandre.
Control ward goes down, as now Flandre in trouble once again. Oner is going to get on forward. He takes a lot of damage, but he's going to be absolutely fine. Once again, Canna finding everyone with his ultimate. The Realm Warp gets the Ryze out, but they're not going to be able to stop this Baron anymore.
There's just no way you could take this fight without those crucial ultimates, but you can't just give up the Baron. You've got to try something. It was an incredible flank there from Faker. You lock down the Jayce and blow him up. There's just no damage realistically in this fight anymore.
And that's going to be Viper's first death of the tournament.
Yeah,
Showmaker, 5th game. Viper, unfortunately, 5th game as well.
The curse!
The 5th game curse!
More than 5.
No one else has been that unlucky this world, have they? As we're going to see it again, and you can see just You can't press R and be okay.
And I think we're starting to see, for the first time with EDG here, this is the heroic play from Faker where he's able to catch Flandre. They have that chain CC. But you're starting to see for the first time that a lot of the domination we've seen from EDG in this group has been around their small advantage and their vision control. And just like everyone else who's faced them and faced the same vision problems, when they don't have it, they look a little bit lost here in some of these fights because they could have tried to make a cross-map play. I don't think you win this Baron fight in any scenario without those key ultimates.
I also think that what we're seeing here, and this is something that You're going
to have to hold on to that one as Jiejie in so much trouble. Not going to be able to take his Gromp. That is illegal. But he is going to be able to flash himself to relative safety. Okay, you can go back.
As I was saying,
go ahead.
As he parkours his way out, I think that not having Meiko on an engage support completely changes the way that EDG can try and turn around these fights. Because what you see there is all of a sudden it's kind of up to Jiejie to walk up. And because they don't really have engage, right? Like they're very good when T1 is engaging into them. But you see, as you already pointed out, Wolf, once T1 choke out the vision, shove in the waves, and take full vision control, what do? Like, you can find blind shock blast, but that's not really getting you anywhere. T1 are not showing on waves, so you can't try and collapse with a possible realm warp. Now, Soul Point also going over.
It's not a game, too, where as EDG you want to be giving over Mountain Soul Point when you're running this Jayce, right? And even the bullet time, you know, MF is really going to struggle against this coming through. I mean, even just the solo Drake, but if they do get the soul, I mean, that's basically game over here. And even clearing vision is a challenge here for EDG. You have to respect that you don't have that vision. I think oftentimes they have not. They've played greedy. They've played like they're ahead when they're not. And it's going to be another inner turret down here. And there's no scaling argument this time for EDG. Yes, you have the Ryze, but you can't just sit on your laurels and sit back and go, well, we'll be stronger in 5 minutes. We're not that kind of, this is not that kind of game.
Also something we haven't noted yet, but Keria went for the Putrifier first, which again is really good if you look at the amount of healing available, the Conqueror that's there. But it also means that some of the value, not all of it, we've seen enough Yuumi heal through plenty of previous wounds, but it's another adaptation from T1 that's shown that they were very ready to take on what the Yuumi first pick might bring. And now, this is a gold lead that's going to be very hard to come back from. It's going to be a great combination of ultimates or a possible collapse. If T1 do overstep at any point.
Yeah, this inhibitor taking a little bit of damage, but Canna on the bottom side as well. He's going to remove the second inhibitor turret of the game, as that's the flash forward. He doesn't care about the exhaust. Canna 1 versus 2. He's got the best item in the game, so he'll be absolutely fine. Scout as well is going to go golden, but the situation's far more dire for him as Faker will lock down the Ryze. A Destiny comes in a little bit mistimed on that rake, but T1 are going to push forward. Nexus turrets now fall, and they'll tie up their scoreline here at Worlds Groups with EDG. The Nexus is the focus. They're not worried about any of the funny business, but they will grab a couple of extra kills before they tie this one up. And you can see a bit of a wry grin on Faker's face as he takes down the Nexus.
I mean, this means now that if T1 and EDG both win their final games of the group, we will have a tiebreaker for first place here, and that is going to be very exciting to watch. We basically get a best of 3 here in this group stage, assuming those 2 wins go through, which is the prediction right now of both these teams advancing from the group.
Also makes these games for spoiler so much more exciting.
No, I 100% agree, and it also showed us that in the first game, it was EDG that read T1 like a book. Every single play was tracked, Oner couldn't find any possibility, but here in this game, T1 come in with a very clear plan in draft. Yuumi does get first picked, and clearly, the plan that T1 had prepared actually does work out.
Yeah, the Poppy was fantastic. I think the fact that T1 were able to crush lane as well was very